everyone. Today we are here to learn about one of our Energize Denver winners from last year at 700 Broadway, the Anthem building. And we have some speakers here to talk about how they made their building more efficient and the systems behind all of that. So I'm excited to talk about that today. Just some logistics since you all are joining virtually. So we are a webinar. All of our audience is muted. If you have questions or comments, feel free to put them in the Q&A box or the chat box. We'll have a Q&A at the end of the presentation, but if you put questions in during the presentation, we'll get to those at the very end. And I'll be facilitating that Q&A session. And then we will also be recording our webinar and then sending it out in an email to everybody who registered for the webinar, and just giving you a link to this recording. So if you have colleagues or peers that either missed it or don't know about it, feel free to forward that email along to them. All right, so a little bit about our webinar. If you've joined us for other webinars before, this is all repeat information, but I like to share it anyway, just in case we have new folks. We do have a really great resource that is the webinar library. We talk a lot about different buildings that have either electrified or retrofitted to be more energy efficient to help comply with some of the policy measures that Denver is putting out these days. And I will put that link in the chat in just a few moments, but feel free to explore our webinar library, check out some of the other webinars that we have done in the past. So for the Energize Denver Awards, we had 4 categories this year. We had 5 winners. And we're going to be speaking with our energy efficiency winner today, which is the Anthem building on 700 Broadway, owned by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Colorado. And we also had 3 other categories. We had our all-electric heat pumps category, equitable community impact category, which had 2 winners, and then our smart leasing category. And we have done a webinar with our all-electric category with Unico Properties. We did that last month, so check that out on our webinar library. And we'll be doing webinars on our other winners shortly, probably in the first quarter of this year. All right, just to introduce our 3 speakers for today, we have Charles Ritz from Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield in Colorado. We have Amber Sells from Elevance Health, and then we have Adam Rustige from Automatic Control Systems, Equipment Systems Incorporated. So I'm really excited to pass it off to Charles to start us off today.
Well, thank you, Lucy, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I first want to just start out by thanking the city of Denver for the recognition. It's really excited to be recognized for the work we've done at 700 Broadway. And before I turn it over to my colleagues and team members to talk about the specific improvements that I know everyone's interested in hearing from, I just wanted to share a little bit about our organization and the history of this building. We started offering health policies to Coloradans in 1938. And in 1973, we began the construction of this building. And at that time, the efficiencies were really focused around consolidating roughly 5 offices, all of our associates, into one location to create better collaboration. Technology was not nearly what it was today in terms of keeping that connectivity and communication and collaboration. And we constructed the building in 1973. Today, we have nearly 1,700 associates employed here at Anthem, and at 700 Broadway, we cover about 1.6 million. So a lot of things have happened since 1938 to 2023. The building celebrates its 50th anniversary this year, and we still use it as our corporate headquarters for Colorado. Here's a couple of construction photos. You can tell we're in the Golden Triangle at the corner of Broadway and 7th Avenue. The one in the upper left hand is obviously during the construction phase, and the bottom right, taken somewhere in the 1980s, reflects the final finished product of the building, and really not much has changed to the outside of that building today. We occupy the majority of the building in the Golden Triangle. So we're really excited about this. I thought before I turn it over to my colleagues, I just mention that our corporate holding company, it used to be Anthem Health, has changed its name to Elevance Health. Now we still operate our health plans in the local state markets under the name of Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield, but our corporate partners operating under the corporate holding company under Elevance Health will be referencing that organization frequently throughout their presentations. I just wanted to make sure that you understood that we're the same organization as a holding company of Elevance Health, and there are operating companies in the 14 states that Anthem operates health plans in, still operating under Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield, which is a very well-known brand and name. So with that, I'm going to pass over the microphone to my colleague, Amber Sells. She's a financial analysis manager for Elevance Health, and she'll give our company-wide overview and get into the meat of the presentation. And thank you guys for awarding us this. We're really honored to be recognized.
Thank you, Charles, for such a great lead off. We're just excited to share our story for 700 Broadway and our commitments. So just as Charles highlighted our commitment to Colorado, we also actually have enterprise and company-wide sustainability commitments. Our first commitment that I'd like to share with you is our Better Buildings Climate Challenge, where we've partnered with our Department of Energy to reduce our greenhouse gases by 50% within 10 years. For our RE100, we committed to a goal of 100% renewable energy by 2025. I'm really excited to share that we've actually already committed to this and we've already achieved this goal. Last year, we signed on, we were initial signatory to the HHS Health Climate Sector Climate Pledge for our net zero commitment by 2050. And lastly, we have already set and achieved our first generation science-based targets. And now we are working, our ESG team is now working to committing to setting our science-based targets to reduce emissions by 2030. If we could go ahead and transition to the next slide, please. That was a view of our commitments, and let's go ahead and go into our specific energy strategy that we use for Elevance Health and Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. First of all, we start with gathering our energy data from our utility invoices. After we gather that data, we use it to trend data from month over month and year over year. We use 2019 as our baseline year, and then we compare it to the current year. The reason why we use our 2019 baseline year is that was when our associates were in full occupancy in our buildings. And then we use it for our current year. After we have our data trended and analyzed, we go to our corporate facility directors, corporate real estate directors and managers to provide building updates of what's going on with the facilities and where can we improve. After we gather that feedback from our managers and directors, we provide an enterprise and company-wide update based on our corporate real estate feedback. After this, our corporate real estate then goes to our engineering teams and also to our outside contractors to facilitate more efficient energy outcomes. Next slide, please. So now that we went through the cycle of how our energy strategy is set, we also want to talk about our key partners in this energy strategy that we've previously alluded to. We start with our environmental and social governance, also known as ESG. So we're basically the big E in this. And so what we do is we partner with our real estate team to set ambitious energy reduction targets. We benchmark it with a facility strategy dashboard. And then we also, we tell the numbers, but then we have a story behind the numbers. And basically we communicate that so we can set those targets and then also be able to go along in the year quarterly updates to provide our real estate team those updates. After our facility directors and managers receive that, they provide the oversight to our buildings and then also enterprise-wide. Specific to our 700 Broadway location, our facility director, Dawn Cooper, and facility manager, Doug Frodine, oversee our facility operations for 700 Broadway, and they were crucial in implementing the latest building updates. After this, after corporate real estate is involved, we work with Cushman and Wakefield engineers to operate and control our building automation system for our self-managed sites. And lastly, our engineers work with our contracts hired to propose and implement new building automation system controls and HVAC equipment upgrades, such as what ACES did. Our energy engineer, Adam Rustige, helped us out with our 700 Broadway. Next slide, please. So specific to Denver, we're really excited to share what we've already accomplished and our achievements that we've had thus far with 700 Broadway. Firstly, I'd like to highlight our Fitwell. Fitwell just optimizes the buildings in order to improve the well-being and productivity through design and operation. So we want to get a holistic view of our building. It's not just energy efficiency. We're looking at health. We're looking at other ways that we can improve our associates' experience within the building. So the last time we certified for this was in 2018. Next, we have a long history of Energy Star. We certified starting in 2017 all the way to 2022. I do want to put a caveat in there. We did not go for certification in 2020 and 2021 based on our hybrid work strategy. We just didn't see a value in doing that at the time, but now that we are having our return to office work and associates coming back in the building, we feel it's more meaningful. And lastly, we've been submitting for our benchmarking with Energize Denver since 2017. It was already a part of our benchmarking for buildings in Energy Star anyway. So this was just an easy way for us to showcase our energy data. And we were really excited to be able to apply and actually be awarded for the first place in energy efficiency winner. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive into how we did the upgrades at 700 Broadway. And to do that, I'm going to hand that off to Adam Rustige from ACES. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Amber. I'd like to start, before I get into the specifics of what's on the slide, I just want to mention this was a pretty unique building. It's a chilled beam system. And what that means is a lot of times you have a system that's usually based on more airflow, where this uses chilled water and hot water that's piped throughout the building. And then there's either an active panel, which does have air that goes across it, or an inactive panel or a passive panel, where it's just convection that does, in this particular instance, the cooling of the building or removing the heat. So from that perspective, it was a really unique building to work on. So as you can see from the slide, 700 Broadway, in the year 2021, saved 26% energy compared to 2020. So the lion's share of the work that we did was upgrading the building automation system. The system itself was over 20 years old, and it was time for an upgrade. So one of the benefits of upgrading the BAS, both of these, the building has two really large air handlers. The motors themselves on the supply fan are 400 horsepower each. And so they use a tremendous amount of energy. And so we were actually able to improve the operation of the supply fans. That saved a significant amount of energy. Next, we installed a total of 12 variable frequency drives, controlling 270 horsepower of pumps. So VFDs are a wonderful way to save energy. Also, the outdoor air dampers were in need of repair. This building was also a combination of DDC and some pneumatic. And so in this particular instance with these outside air dampers, they were pneumatic and some of the actuators were no longer working. So we were able to convert those to with new actuators and pull that into the current building automation system. You know, that allows you to take care of outside air for free cooling and just gets the outdoor air dampers to work as intended. And then lastly, you know, I always say if you're doing energy efficiency correctly, you should never sacrifice comfort. And from the feedback we've gotten, the building comfort has improved. So to me, that's always a win-win. When you can save energy and make the building more comfortable, that's as good as it gets. Next slide, please. So to help show what the energy savings looked like for the year 2021, the top line above the color shows the amount of energy per billing period for the year 2020. And then the line at the bottom of the color represents the energy consumption in the year 2021. So the delta, or the colored area, represents the savings that took place for each billing period. So, and then to sort of show what it looks from a cumulative standpoint is the line on the bottom. It shows you from January, no savings, up to around 1.6 million kWh. So just a way to show you, how that savings grew throughout the year. Next slide, please. So this is kind of the first, within the BAS, this would be a really great graphic that allows you to, this one necessarily has more of a, I feel is useful from a comfort and from using the software. So these are all the floors in the building, and we are, the color system, it helps you know if a space is at set point or below or above. If it's green, that means you're between your set point, in theory, you're comfortable. And if you're light blue or yellow, that either means you're a little cool or you're a little warm. And then if it's darker blue or orange, it's a little bit further from set point, and then red means you're even further. So why I like this is as a building, as an owner, or as a someone that's utilizing the software, you can come onto this screen and very quickly see where there's issues from a comfort perspective. If you're seeing all greens and yellows and light blues, well, your building is doing really well from a comfort perspective. And then if you see things, as you can see on the screen, there's a little bit of red or a little bit of dark blue, then you can just click onto those particular zones of the building. It'll take you to that particular area, whatever the particular piece of equipment that's conditioning that area, it'll take you right to it. So you can start to troubleshoot and figure out what's going on. So it's just a wonderful platform. Next slide, please. And then this is how we would show the chilled water system. I should also mention one other benefit that I missed earlier was the 3 chillers were before we integrated to the new building automation system, were actually standalone. So the building owner and supporting staff didn't have any idea what the chillers were doing, whether it be getting feedback, and if they had to turn them on or turn them off, it all had to be done manually. So another benefit was that we're able to bring the chillers into the building automation system. But a screen like this, it's sort of a schematic of sorts. It just shows you, it shows you power, it shows you, what your capacity of your chillers are. It's got a heat exchanger, pumps, it just gives somebody an opportunity to really quick draw a picture, and see where there's issues and just be able to identify if your chill water plant is running well. So that's it for my part of the presentation. Lucy, if you'd like to handle the Q&A.
Sure. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Adam, Amber, and Charles. That was a great overview of the building. If we have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat or in the Q&A box. In the meantime, I have kind of my own question. I'm curious about what made you decide to make these retrofits, like what kind of sparked the decision to make these changes?
Well, from our particular perspective, the system was, all equipment has an end of life. And in this particular instance, the existing building automation system was 20+ years old. And so it just didn't have, quite the capabilities that obviously newer systems, DDC has. And so I think a combination of age, plus, like I mentioned, the chillers weren't on the system. In addition to, there was still some pneumatic control and some things that, weren't working correctly. So we also converted a number of the valves, whether it be, for the boilers or just a variety of valves were also converted to DDC. So that just gives you, it's just less opportunities for a failure. If you have an air compressor and your compressor goes down, well, then you've lost the capability to be able to use certain parts of your system. So, you just reach a point where upgrading to a system, just is needed just from the functionality of the building. And the other benefits, of course, are you can save energy and hopefully improve comfort as well. So.
Awesome. We did have one question come in that was about the expected return on investment for this project.
Amber, were you going to take that one?
Sure. So thank you, Adam. Thank you, Lucy. So the most important thing for this one was just making sure that our system, our BAS system, was up to date. And that was our main focus on this. And then basically working off of what associates we had in our buildings, that was key in this. In our building comfort is more impactful than what our ROI was.
Awesome. Well, if we don't have any other questions, I will close out the webinar early today. Looks like everyone gets, oh, we got one more question that came in really quick. Is the glass still original? Patrick is wondering how energy loss via glass was considered if it's still the original glass.
Yeah, I can't answer that question, but from a consideration standpoint, I can't say that was part of the discussion as far as changing of the equipment. Obviously, the one advantage when you have things like variable frequency drives and things along, things that modulate, which our equipment modulates better, where if, let's just say you did have something that was oversized in the past, I feel like that could have a detriment on energy efficiency. But I feel like with the equipment in this building, the actual envelope, if it had been adjusted, isn't as significant, I feel like, as it would have been in the past. So that wasn't part of the discussion. We pretty much were going under the assumption that the current design and the load that the equipment was able to handle hadn't changed in retrospect to the envelope itself. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it did. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for presenting today. We're really excited to be able to showcase this great example of a more efficient building to our community. If there are any follow-up questions, feel free to reply to my email that I send out in the next few days. I'm happy to forward that question on to our speakers or try and answer it myself if I am able to, if it's about policy and all that. But thank you all so much for joining us today, and keep an eye out for that email with this recording. Thanks all.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Great to have you.